So in case you can't tell, Spell Spotlight is going to be a little more broad, except maybe covering a few spells in one video to save, you know, me and Laura and everyone else a lot of time. They don't want to watch a 10-minute video about one spell unless it's like humongous, like Wish. Most other things I can't really stretch out too long, so that's why I'm starting to compact all of them into categories. Categories. They're going to be very loosely categorized. You'll be able to tell by the fact that today's video title is Floating Weapons. It's a very specific medium, but for some reason there's at least 3 of those spells. There might be more than what I've written down, and if there are, then I have made a grave mistake and I am the worst D&D YouTuber in existence. Nevertheless, welcome to Spell Spotlight. This is a very specific set of spells that the concept is, you know, very, very simple. I summon a weapon and it floats and it hits things. These spells don't have a massive amount of components about them, but I do want to rant about it because I do have a pretty big interest in them, and I've used one of them before and it was the most satisfying time of my life. So, the first one of this list of 3 that I have compiled is Spiritual Weapon. It is absolutely iconic. It's a 2nd level spell that clerics can take, and also specifically Conquest Paladins can also take, and that has a casting time of a bonus action. The first of many extremely powerful things about this goddamn spell. When you cast the spell, you summon the Spiritual Weapon and it stays there for a whole minute without concentration. Pretty neat. Upon casting the spell, still part of that first little bonus action, you can make a melee spell attack with it, and it deals a d8 plus your spellcasting ability modifier on a hit, which is neat. That's an average of 8 to 9 damage at like that level, maybe 7. But yeah, that's neat. This is an insane thing, because force damage is very rarely resisted or immune to, and the damage is great because you get to add a modifier to it, which means that on average you're just going to be doing a lot more. Like, even if you roll a 1 on that d8, you can have your +4 spellcasting ability modifier, and now you're still doing 5 damage, etc, etc. The craziest thing is that you can continue to use your bonus action after the fact and just keep slamming it into things. You can move it 20 feet and hit something as a bonus action. Woo! Basically one of the most powerful early game spells ever. The fact that it isn't concentration either means that it probably is going to stay around for the entire encounter. The only really thing that I could maybe think that would perhaps get rid of it is Dispel Magic. Other than that, nothing pops into my mind. Well, there's Anti-Magic Field and all the stuff like that, but you know what I mean. The upcasting is balanced. You'll need to spend a spell slot of 2 higher than 2 to get an extra d8, and from there 6 to get an extra d8, and 8 to get an extra d8, etc, etc. So by the end you could maybe be dealing 4d8 plus 5 force damage a turn if you hit, which you should be doing at level 20 if you're casting an 8th level spell. So yeah, if you're a cleric, cast this spell please. Everyone, including your DM, will love you for it, and if your DM hates you for it, that's weird. Ryan, one of my players, actually told me a mini horror story about like a game that he was in once where he had Spiritual Weapon up and was just, you know, wrecking house with it, and the DM didn't like it, so he just kind of took it away. Like, he just didn't think it should be there, so he just took it away. He's like, how is that still lasting? Nah, I think it's over for now. I'm like, oh, interesting. So, Mordenkainen's Sword. This is some beta-ass stuff in comparison to Spiritual Weapon right there for bards and wizards. Do you want a 7th level spell that does only slightly better damage than Spiritual Weapon, but requires concentration? Then this is the spell for you. There are a lot of cons to this spell in comparison to pros, but the theme is kind of cool. You know, big old sword that you summon in the air and it's whoosh, whoosh, and you don't have to be a cleric to do it. You need to use your action to put this one down, but after that, most elements of the spell are identical to Spiritual Weapon, using a bonus action to attack someone, moving in a little each turn, etc. as part of that bonus action. However, as mentioned earlier, it needs concentration, meaning it's easier to get rid of on the enemy's side of things, because they could just hit you, and unless you have, like, Warcaster, you might be screwed. Like, most of those spellcasters aren't going to be able to concentrate on stuff like well, and it's only for bards and wizards. And at that level, like, I can't imagine them having anything more than maybe a +3, like, just by default. Sure, Warcaster can give you advantage on that, which is brilliant, but big spell, and it could just be gotten rid of. When I was going over this spell, I was, like, hoping so bad that it lasted a lot longer than a minute as a pro, but nope, it lasts a minute. I was really thinking, maybe it's like a permanent, I'm gonna go into this dungeon, have Mordenkainen's sword ready, and that's me set out for this entire dungeon. I can bonus action cast this like every turn and just hit things, and then I also have my action to do other stuff. But no, it lasts a minute, and it takes an action to cast. The damage on this one is 3d8 force damage, which is also very lacking, considering a 6th level's casting a spiritual weapon deals 3d8 with some extra on top of that. So they're kind of equal. They're kind of equal in their damage, except spiritual weapon is 1 level lower if you upcast it to be as good as this in terms of damage. And yeah, to top off the shame, it cannot be upcasted to deal any more damage as a 7th level spell. If you could upcast it to maybe do 2d10 more per level, that would definitely elevate this ability a little better. It would make it a little more worthwhile. I think up the damage, you could up the duration that it's around, you've got yourself a sweet spell. The fact that it takes an action is a massive worry if you want to make it last longer. Overall, not a very good spell, and I'm annoyed by it in all honesty. I'm considering reworking a few spells and putting them up on Patreon, and this is most definitely one of them. There are some other ones as well, like Wind Wall, just dealing like damage once, and then that's it, etc, etc. I have a lot of complaints about some spells that are more situational. Here we have Blade of Disaster, which is Rime of the Frost Maiden getting it right. This is Mordenkainen's sword, but right. This is the first ever 9th level spell with an attack involved, which makes sense. Most 9th levels need to work in some capacity, whether the enemy saves against their effect, or they suck massive big balls. This is kind of a mix of the two different ways the other spells work. It takes a bonus action to cast like Spiritual Weapon, but its concentration, like Mordenkainen's sword, also still lasts a minute. It can move 30 feet on a bonus action to attack again, and can be cast by a sorcerer, warlock, or wizard. I think that's decent, especially for like a warlock, because holy crap, that's like sick as hell, because you could run the Blade of Disaster around and then also be Eldritch Blasting, that sort of thing. And that's what they're good at. So here are some of the more fun parts. To start off with, it does 4d12 force damage on a hit, which is great for maybe like a 5th level spell, one time with their damage. An average of 25 isn't that bad. Now the funny thing is that this spell is apparently a 15th level champion fighter, because it crits on 18s or higher, and they get extra crit damage. So normally when you would get a critical hit with a weapon, it would deal double the damage dice. So in this case, normally it would be, oh, I'm critting, I'm doing 8d12 instead of 4d12. Nope, specifically says you're doing 12d12 instead of 8d12. It's like a double crit. So yeah. And the fact that then that might stay around after you've done an average of like 60 damage, and you can just swing again, and again, and again, and again. Oh my god, insanity. I forgot to mention, as the bonus action, you make not 1, but 2 attacks with it. That's mental. Like, you have a chance of, if you crit twice, which is unlikely, but it could happen, dealing 24d12 damage as a bonus action, and it's force, which once again is barely resisted. Or, like, nothing's immune to it either. Whew! I should have this vibe when talking about a 9th level spell. You can tell they got it right when I'm talking about it like that. I definitely think I need to give Acerak that. No, never mind, I don't want to kill my pie. It has a couple of neat details too, like it can move through any sort of solid wall or thing, even a wall of force, because, you know, 9th level spell. This can definitely be a risk. Concentration can be hard to maintain late game, so make sure you're A-okay on that before you waste your big 9th level when the baddie casts Meteor Swarm, and you're just fucked. Definitely get some ally insurance. Make sure that you get a healer in there, or like someone that can help you concentrate better, someone that might let you automatically succeed, if there's a way that you could perhaps do that. If there's like a magic item that anyone has around that like gives concentration benefits, then be the one to take that if you want to cast the spell, because that might be your doom if you just cast it, and then you've gone, ha, yeah, that was such a good first round with it, can't wait for the... So, those are the spells. Let me know if any of them I've missed, because there might be more floating weapons. We can discuss them in the comments or in my Discord. In our Discord, even. It's not mine. It's mine and Laura's, and also all of our players and moderators. It's a lot of us. We have the link to our Discord in the description. Something I wanted to mention is that we're going to be in this recording situation for a while. I definitely feel like I'm a little more low energy in general when it's just me by myself in my room talking to a camera. Nevertheless, I hope you still enjoy the videos regardless. I imagine it's a lot more effort on Laura's part to edit this sort of stuff, since she used to be there to watch me record. Thank you for watching my mouth move and sound come out of it for a period of time. Goodbye! I love my new chair. It like moves and everything. The moment I said, like, that's the only thing I can think of, I'm like, oh, anti-magic field, but of course.